Hello paddlers! Today I'm in Madison, Wisconsin on the west shore of Lake Mendota at Marshall Park. It's the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, and normally this type of a lake would be somewhere I avoid on a holiday weekend. I do anticipate seeing a whole lot of boat traffic out there, but I'm going to make the best of it because this is where I just happen to be for Memorial Day weekend this year. So my plan is I'm going to try to see all 20-ish miles of shoreline on the whole lake today. I've done it in 4 or 5 hours in the past, so let's get out there. I launched on the west side of Lake Mendota and go counterclockwise around the whole lake. There's 21 boathouses in this cooperative, and it's actually the oldest cooperative in the United States, having been formed in 1897, 1898. The boathouses are not year-round dwellings, as they have no water between, let's say, October through April. I mean, I suppose you could live there year-round if you just wanted to live without water. I mean, they couldn't be more than 10, 15 feet wide, but they're very cool. Easy to miss unless you're looking for it. On the northwest corner of Lake Mendota, about a mile north of Marshall Park, is Pheasant Branch Creek. If you go back into my videos, probably like this, I don't know, maybe the first or second video I ever posted on YouTube is me taking one of my smaller boats all the way to the source of the creek, and you can see the natural springs bubbling up through the sand. It's super cool. Cannot do that in this behemoth of a sea kayak. I had my little roto molded boat that day, so if you ever get a chance to go up in there, do it. It's super cool. Not today. I got a whole lot of shoreline yet to see, and I'm getting kind of a late start, so let's go. I like paddling on Lake Mendota in the springtime when the water is crystal clear. This lake unfortunately gets kind of nasty with its blue-green algae when it gets really hot later in the year. About a mile and a half, mile and 3/4 in, we have Mendota County Park right here. Kind of a shit boat launch, but sort of okay beach. It's not hot yet here in Madison. That's why there's not a whole lot of people hanging out. It's maybe 68 degrees. I mean, we've certainly had a lot worse Memorial Day weekends in southern Wisconsin. I mean, I am only a couple miles in so far, but I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought it would be just an obnoxious amount of boats on the water. As you approach the north shore of Lake Mendota, it starts to go a little bit more like Lake Geneva in the size and home value of these places, just around the Bishop's Bay Country Club, which is what we're approaching up here. I've been to an event or two over the years at Bishop's Bay Country Club behind me here, but you can be an uninvited guest to one of their live music events if you just happen to be paddling by and just park yourself right here. Definite Lake Geneva vibes on this side of the lake. I've gone from pleasantly surprised to actually quite shocked how little action there is on Lake Mendota today. If you look way across the water, you can see the state capitol. We'll get better views of that later. The day just keeps getting more beautiful. I mean, look at these skies. Look at this calm water. I'm absolutely shocked there's not more people out here. Anyway, behind me is Governor Nelson State Park. It's not a giant state park, at only about 420 acres, but there's miles and miles of hiking trails. There's a dog park, boat launch, and okay, so I read online that there is a World War II air traffic control tower in this park. I've been to this park. I don't know where they're hiding it, but that's where it says online. So next time I get a chance to go to that state park on land, I'm gonna have to investigate that a little bit further. Completely different day, and I think I found it. You definitely can't go in.
Well, that seems like a hell of a weird World War II souvenir to me, but apparently this sat in the English countryside, was used in the Battle of Britain, and Governor Gaylord Nelson brought it back to Wisconsin, and now it sits here in this spot at the state park.
The skies are not only getting bluer, but it's getting a little bit warmer too. I was able to lose the jacket. I've only gone about 4 of my 20 miles, and it's 20 minutes to 4. So at this point, I'm seriously questioning my time management skills. I'm gonna have to pick up the pace a little bit here. It's just like I'm in a really soupy spot of the lake. So let's get out of here. This is slowing me down. I thought I was plenty far away enough from shore to not have to deal with all this slop, but ugh. If that's any indication of the health of this lake or what that's going to look like in a couple of months, that's a little concerning. In the interest of saving a little bit of time and a super boring part of the video, I think I'm going to bypass that marshy area on the northeast side of Lake Mendota for a couple of reasons. It'll take off a mile or 2 off of my paddle, but it's just really sloppy over here, and I'm already going to be on the water a lot later than I had planned, so it's not a really interesting part of the lake. It's really marshy over there. I've actually found a lot of treasures over there. I found a couple of tubing inner tubes over there that just blew off boats, and regular boats just can't get into the shallow water over there. Right over there is where the Yahara River comes into Lake Mendota, creating the chain of 4 lakes in the Madison area. Check out my Cherokee Marsh video from last year, because if you go up the Yahara River from here, that's where you end up. So I'm headed right across over to Mendota, Mendota Mental Health Institute. Interesting place. So when I get there, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I know about that property. Well, here's another interesting little feature I kind of forgot all about a mile from Governor's Island. I kind of forgot that this little island spot existed, but I have just referred to this little island as Bird Shit Island for years because I had no idea why it was here and the history behind. It's just a giant pile of rocks for birds to come and shit on. And I'm afraid if I stay here too long, I will too get shat upon. But this is actually called Rocky Roost. I just read about it in a book called On Fourth Lake. It's the history of Lake Mendota. And this was actually before they put the locks in between Lake Mendota and Lake Monona and raised the water level. There was actually like a little house here that was connected to the mainland with a little road. So they put in the locks, they raised the level of Lake Mendota, so the road is all washed away. Somehow I think there might be a Frank Lloyd Wright connection there, but maybe I'm making that up in my head because I read it a long time ago. But very cool book. Look for the book On Fourth Lake. It's the history of Lake Mendota. Have I read it? Maybe a couple of pages. It's on a side table in my sunroom. I will get to read it one of these days. But shout out to the local historian that did all the research in that thing. Every lake has their little party spot, and on Lake Mendota, that's what we'll be approaching up here right before we get to Governor's Island. So even the party corner only has about 6 boats. What is going on, Madison, Wisconsin? I thought, well, I'm in Madison this weekend. Maybe I'm going to go way far away from the city so I won't have to compete with all the locals on the lake. But this is crazy. It's Memorial Day weekend. Where is everybody? Spot this serene, you really forget that you are as close downtown Madison as you are right here. It's going to be a little overcast, but you can still see the Capitol pretty well from here. This little bit of land behind me is Governor's Island. I don't know why they call it an island. It's not really an island. It's a tide island or a tombolo. I suppose Governor's Tombolo would sound kind of stupid and nobody would know what that means. Anyway, Governor's Island right behind me is part of the property of the Mendota Mental Health Institute. Now, when I go to a destination, I like to do a little bit of research. I can't even tell you how deep of a rabbit hole I fell into when I was researching Mendota. Mendota Mental Health Institute actually opened in 1860 as the Wisconsin Hospital for the Insane, and it's been operating as a psychiatric facility ever since. Major facility built to house about 1,500. Like many facilities of that era, it's got a rather checkered past. There was a typhoid epidemic that killed over a dozen people in 1904, which was traced back to contaminated waters of Lake Mendota prior to the completion of a wastewater treatment facility in the 1920s. All of the raw sewage from the insane hospital was dumped right here into Lake Mendota. The facility was again in the news in the 1930s when there was some accusations of beatings and poisonings. There was a confirmed case of somebody dying from arsenic poisoning and another one in 1934 of a patient that was beaten to death. You would think that would lead to either the firing or the resignation of the superintendent, but that individual stayed there until 1948. There's only one original structure at the facility that is not used to house anybody right now. It's just kind of abandoned. Most of the structures were knocked over and rebuilt in the 1950s. I think there's only a couple of hundred people there now. This is actually the community that Ed Gein spent the rest of his years at when the community up in Waupun turned into a maximum security correctional facility and all the insane people came down to live at Mendota. There's a pretty rich Native American history here in Dane County and the Madison area, and there's quite a few effigy mounds on the property at Mendota. They were placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1974. One of them effigy mounds being a Thunderbird, which is the logo at the current institution. One of the most intriguing things I learned about Mendota is that they have a cemetery. They had about 1,700 people die and get buried in the cemetery from 1860 to the 1910s sometime. So went down this rabbit hole to see who was there, what their stories were. I stumbled upon this book called Money, Marriage, and Madness. It's the story of Anna Ott, one of the patients there at Mendota, lived the last 20 years of her life there. One of the first female physicians in the state of Wisconsin. Her first husband was a physician, second husband also a physician, very abusive. Anyway, he had her incarcerated against her will, basically, with claims that she was manic and women basically didn't have a whole lot of rights back then. And anyway, it's a fascinating story. I'm about halfway through the book, but it's called Money, Marriage, and Madness, Story of Anna Ott. Check that out.
We can't see any of the institution from the water, so I thought I'd throw a quick video in there of a drive I did through their campus just recently. This building coming up here, that's the one original building, I would assume, all boarded up. Boy, would I love to go inside there. And then the cemetery, not far from there, with the last gravestone being Ms. Anna Ott.
Heading across this little bay to the old money neighborhood of Maple Bluff. Seems like a good a spot as any to sit here and have my sandwich. If you know me, you know what kind of sandwich I'm having. This southern classical style abode you see behind me on the east shore of Lake Mendota is Wisconsin's executive residence. The 16,000 square foot home was built in 1920 by just some ordinary wealthy dude as a regular house. That guy owned it for about 12 years, sold it to someone else. That owner then sold it to the state for $47,500 in 1949. And it's been home to Wisconsin's first family ever since. The home sits on 3.7 acres, and I've been by here years ago. They didn't always have that security fence in the back. That wasn't that long ago. I want to say, I don't know, 5 years ago. I don't get over to the east shore of Lake Mendota all that often, so I don't know how long it's been there. Actually, kind of surprising it wasn't there a lot sooner. But the wrought iron fence in the front of the property actually used to surround the original state capitol in Wisconsin. I did actually have a governor sighting there a few years back. We're approaching the Tenny Park Lock right over here. I have a little information on a previous video about that. Probably the best view we're gonna get of the Capitol is from about right here. It won't be quite as visible as we get closer. We won't be able to see the bottom of it quite as well. I wish it was a little bit brighter out, but man, I am not complaining. I've been out here for about 3 hours and I didn't think it could get any more calm, but look at that. Score. We have reached the isthmus, piece of land that Madison sits on that separates Lake Mendota and Lake Mendota. That is a really great view of the Capitol. So I think the paddle will get a little bit more interesting now that we're approaching downtown. That's the Edgewater Hotel straight ahead of us. The Edgewater Hotel here behind me was the place for important meetings, fine dining, and dancing when it opened in 1948. The Edgewater has had some celebrity guests over its years, like Bob Hope, Elvis, Elton John, Joni Mitchell, and the Dalai Lama. If you know anything about Madison, Wisconsin, you know it is a college town home to the University of Wisconsin. And this stretch right here, I think, is just a bunch of frat and sorority houses and student housing as we head into campus here. Well, apparently there's some entertainment going on at Memorial Union tonight. I mean, after all, it is a Saturday night. The Red Gym. Red Gym completed in 1894. The official name of that building is still the Armory and Gymnasium because that was the purpose it served when it was built. By the end of World War I, it kind of outlived that purpose, although the ROTC had offices in that building until 1970. They got the heck out of Dodge when protesters bombed their offices. Now it just houses a myriad of student organizations. So this is the Memorial Union. Place of socialization, relaxing, studying, eating, and drinking. Opened on campus here in 1928. I actually expected far more people to be at Memorial Union on this beautiful day. But graduation weekend was last weekend here in Madison, so I think a lot of the students are just left town at this point. Take note of the iconic Memorial Union chairs. We'll talk about those in a minute. So getting back to those iconic Memorial Union chairs, that design was first introduced when Memorial Union opened in 1920. They were originally made out of wood, so as you can imagine, this climate was not very clean wood. They didn't last very long, so they went through a couple of generations before they finally introduced the current model in 1974. They come in three colors: orange, green, and yellow. And you can purchase them through the university for the low price of $455 a pop. $455 for a metal chair that personally I think is really ugly and it's not even very comfortable. So if you are an alumni with more money than you know what to do with and you don't mind spending $2,000 for your family to sit on uncomfortable chairs, those are available for your purchase. This is University Bay. We're going to kind of skip right over that because my time management skills suck today, but that's University Hospital right over there. Just past University Bay, and this piece of land right here is Picnic Point. It's a nice little place. You can take a, I don't know, maybe about a mile hike before we get to that spot that meets the water. I think I'm about 13 miles in. It's 6:30, so I need to pick up the pace a little bit here. We're coming up onto the Shorewood neighborhood here pretty quick. This is Spring Harbor Beach. Spring Harbor Beach is really not anything too exciting to look at, but this is a really significant spot as far as Native American history is concerned, and just discovered recently within the last couple of years. In 2021, the Wisconsin Historical Society, with cooperation with a couple of dive teams, pulled up a 1,200-year-old Native American dugout canoe right in this spot. Following year in 2022, divers found another dugout canoe dating back 3,000 years. It was a pretty big deal in the news in southern Wisconsin. I saw images of the original canoe that they pulled up out of this area, and you know what? It totally looks like a canoe. The one that they pulled up that was 3,000 years old, I would not have recognized that thing as a canoe or just a big giant eroded log. But I guess the one that is 1,200 years old is now on display somewhere here in Madison, maybe at the university or some museum or something. Anyway, this spot got a lot of national attention just last year in 2024 when archaeologists discovered remnants of up to 11 canoes dating back possibly up to 4,500 years. And that would be the oldest dugout canoe ever found in the entire Great Lakes region. I'm starting to think I bit off more than I can chew there for a minute, getting such a late start. Planning on doing the entire lake. I'm ready to get out of this boat. I've been sitting in this exact position for 5 hours and 24 minutes and 8 seconds as we speak. I need to stretch my legs and bend my knees and probably find the nearest bathroom, and I'm going to find some ice cream in this town. I thought the wind would pick up at some point, but it's been like this all day. That wraps it up for me on Lake Mendota. Since I cut some corners, I got 17 and a half miles in instead of my intended 20. But you know what? For this early in the season, that's kind of a long day for me, so I'm sure I'm going to be feeling it tomorrow. Is that going to stop me from paddling tomorrow? Probably not, but we'll see where tomorrow's adventures take me. Thanks for coming along, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe so you don't miss any of my next adventures. 2025 is just beginning. I'll see you next time.